So my first question would be, and then I'll open it up to the floor for all of you actors. Have you done anything like this before?
No, absolutely not.
No, mate, no.
So
not recording, but I've been once a week since lockdown, been part of a group of actors who have done scripts, which follows an original casting for a pitch for TV. A zombie thing, actually, funnily enough. Anyway, so that's been the nearest. It's been a Zoom thing where we've all read script, a different episode every week. So that's been good.
So and how did you find doing that? You found that it's keeping you engaged during lockdown? Definitely,
yeah. But the sort of regular weekly read through of different scripts, and also helped you get into this character, the character that you're playing, because we were all cast for a particular character. So that was a good experience. We've come to the end of all the scripts, but the writer may indeed be doing some more. But it's a bit like, this was a short, very intense recording and piece of work. That was obviously more relaxed because it's not being recorded. And so it was a sort of social meetup as well, with a bunch of us who had met in real life, as it were.
Yeah.
So two very different experiences in a way, but obviously with overlaps.
I'd love you to send me some links, anything you've done on that work to see, because it was actually seeing some other writer and actor friends of mine doing online read-throughs, which gave me the idea of well, why can't we do that, but push it to the next level. So it's interesting to see that you've been a part of that.
Yeah, I've been doing similar kind of stuff to Jenny. So I've been doing a weekly play reading with a company called Siberian Lights, which is predominantly female creatives, which is awesome. And then as well as that, I'm also part of a theatre company called Director's Cut. And we normally at the end of every term, so they have like an actors club, a writers club, and a directors club. Normally at the end of every term, they do something called Write to Write, where it's essentially a read through of like a rehearsed reading of some of the scripts that the writers have done. So we did that all virtually, and it was actually done as like a live stream. And then on top of that, we've also done, because normally we then do like an end of term showcase, which we haven't been able to do, or at least not in a theatre. So instead we've done a series of short films, which are all going to be they're all going to go live this Sunday actually, on the 28th. So I've interestingly been doing like a lot of similar stuff, and with that as well, what was weird was that there was a really big crossover, because with the short film that I did for the showcase, it was also filmed on Zoom. So I'm like, I know really well how to film on Zoom now. This is all I do. I just film on Zoom all the time.
Kitty, I know you haven't done sort of acting at home for a while, but you do have to do quite a lot of home shoots for your work. How does the
yeah, there was a huge amount of crossover. Sorry, Zoom just rudely interrupted you, but yeah, it's been because we were so lucky that I just so happened to have the kind of equipment that I did, because with all the stuff that I shoot at home, I have to have different tripods, I have to have different lighting, cameras, all that kind of thing. But I think it really worked in our favor. But it was a learning trying to get like shots right and getting all the orientation right and everything like that. It was like, it was amazing. And now I know that I could definitely do this again. Not waiting for another pandemic. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if I want to do another short film at home, I think we can make it work.
Yeah. I think the thing that was making me laugh at is because I was just remembering years ago, me and Kitty have actually known each other since university, and the other day when I was trying to save my computer from dying, and had to try and save all our work for going viral, I managed to do it all. But one of the things I came across was some pictures on a day where Kitty had a modelling shoot happening at home, and the photographer came to her house.
Oh yeah!
I was so hungover, so I looked absolute best. The pictures of me holding holding like an IKEA lamp to get.
Yeah, you saved the day with that shoot. Oh my god, what a time. Yeah.
Did you guys have any expectations for the rehearsal and filming process? Because I know it's quite a unique circumstance all round, so.
No, I didn't know. I didn't really know what was going to go on, and so I was excited and nervous. I didn't really have any expectations.
No, because you don't know what to expect, really. It's such a new way of filming, and every episode was different anyway, so it was just a complete new terrain, really. Yeah,
I can imagine, because I guess it's different from being on stage and being on a film set to kind of just performing with all your emotions into a tiny hole into a laptop, so yeah, it's probably gosh.
How did you guys find, obviously with the rehearsals, how did you find that? Because I don't know how much we were, even when we were planning, we were like, how much rehearsal would this require, and how would we do that rehearsal? Do you think the read through helped initially, and how did speaking to the writers, did that help also?
I think that was definitely good, because you got to see everybody and you understood it more. If you hadn't seen everybody from their own little films, you perhaps wouldn't know what was going on.
Yeah, but that's so true, like seeing it as an entire, or not seeing it, but feeling it as an entire piece, all 4 pieces together, like it really set the scene, and it was really nice to kind of see who was playing who, so you had reference points for your own character as well. It was great. I remember coming out of that table reading just being like, "Ooh, we're doing this thing!" Like, it was so great. I really enjoyed
it. The table read for me was the moment when I went, oh gosh, this could be really good.
I guess this is a thing now.
Yeah, just adding that pace to it is just incredible. Like, you just need, like, just to read something on a page is so much different once it actually has pace, it has rhythm, like, and other people surprise you with what they choose to do.
That was the cool thing.
Yeah. I thought there was a sort of strong, strong development. I don't know, if you did it as plotted it on a graph, I sort of felt that we came a long way in a very short space of time. From the sort of table read right through to when Miriam, you took charge of doing the directing, like for our episode, and even that, like from the beginning of that first day to the end of that day, it was a really powerful experience. I thought. I think we did a lot of work in a relatively short space of time, and actually we managed a lot of obstacles and difficulties, didn't we? From the sort of physical setup to actually delivering it, and the character, and I mean there were so many different levels, like the technical aspects and all sorts of things. It was really, I think we did really well.
Yeah, that's the thing I found, especially as an actor. When you get hired for a project, that's what you have to focus on, is your acting. But with this one, especially, with the first episode, poor Sinead, bloody hell, she can literally put so many production skills on her CV now. But it's just, you don't worry on just the acting anymore with the project. It was lighting, camera angles, props, continuity. It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
It certainly makes you, people, especially within film crews, everybody, there's a lot of rivalries on camera versus sound, and it's sort of silly, but and very sort of male led, but it really, once you start trying to do a project without those people, you realise how vitally important every single member of the crew is, especially like when we were editing episode 4, which is like, sound mixer would have been so nice.
Yeah.
that's the problem with that, to try and figure out how we do things without those people.
without their equipment as well.
Yeah.
Obviously Miriam was directing everything, but how did you guys find sort of rehearsing with Miriam and then sort of being left to your own devices pretty much to sort of secure the shots and you know, like just how frustrating or not was that for you?
I guess it was kind of funny, like rehearsing in that kind of format where, you know, Miriam and I would kind of do a couple of rehearsals live on WhatsApp video, and then I do a couple of rehearsal takes, wait, download it from my camera onto my phone, and then send it from my phone to Miriam. It was like, whereas, you know, in a usual rehearsal space, it's just you're in the flow. And I didn't feel like the flow was disrupted so much just because, you know, you're so on it and you're hyper focused on like trying to achieve that thing. But there is something to be said for how weird it is to stop and start with that process when usually you're just going with it, you know.
So much longer. It's such a longer process, like things that you could correct in like 5 minutes flat suddenly take you 40 minutes of like back and forth and stuff. So yeah,
it was interesting because obviously you would film the shot, Miriam would have a look and make her notes, and then she would forward it to me and ask questions to me, so I would watch the shot, and then sometimes we'd have to ask, then I'd sometimes have to take it to Matt just to check that certain things were going to work in the edit. So the shot would be like, Kit had done the shot, it had gone through 4 people, and it'd come back, and then he would like, I couldn't imagine what you were doing during the time that you were then like waiting on that.
Chasing the sun a lot of the time, chasing the sun. The amount of time it took between waiting for, obviously for you guys to okay it all, but with a lot of the outside shoots, it was like, oh my god, we are literally watching the sun getting closer and closer.
That was a nightmare. We had to move to like 3 different spots in the garden, and
it was really hot,
and it was perfect. And by the end of the shot, the shade had gone from like covering Sarsi to being like halfway across her face, and we would watch it back and be like, well, we can't send her that.
And every time there's a scene where Sinead gets to pour water all over me, so I'm just like
I did enjoy getting to multiple.
That's really
it was certainly though, like I felt the stress factor was definitely ramped a lot.
Yeah,
we were having to think about so many different things. It was like, you know, it made me realize that like doing any of those things would have been fine if you're just doing one of those things. But suddenly, like when you're having to make sure that all of these different things are right, and you would just get one thing, and then it would be like, oh, actually, as you say, oh, the sound, or oh, there's too much feeling in this shot.
I mean, obviously,
so sorry for that. I was like, there is too much feeling.
Obviously, you had like
get the feeling right, and something else would go wrong, and we were like.
like obviously you had the added pressure of trying to make it look like an Instagram live kind of thing as well.
I want to say now, well done, Kitty, because how the hell do you do this?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. Don't realize how much energy it takes to. I mean, I know you were playing an influencer, but like being an influencer is kind of weird because it's such expended energy, and you don't kind of realize it until you're tired at the end of the day, and it's like, what did I do? I just had to like, because on some level there's such a crossover, isn't there, between, you know, it's 2 different kinds of performances. On some level you have to be your heightened best self when you're online. I mean, you don't have to, but there is this pressure to. So compound that with playing an influencer as well, it's like layers, you know.
Well, you hit on a point that we were sort of going to go into anyway. So we said there was a bit more I mean, obviously there's two part here. One, Sarsi, there's a bit more pressure on you because you had to mimic social media influencer, doing the filming themselves, and then the second part is I was going to speak to Sinead about how you're the only person who, I mean, although we had names and voices and characters featured in some way across each episode, you're actually the only person who physically appeared in both episodes, and how the different styles of filming with you. So we'll go to Sarsi first on the social media, and then we'll come on to you for the 2 different styles.
Yeah, for those who know me, I'm really like the biggest noob with anything social. I'm like, what
You never know. Oh my god.
Days ago, there was something like really basic on Instagram story, and Sarsi was like, how do I don't know how I do that. And I was like, okay, you need me to like go through the steps of it?
That was fun. But no, I think for my approach to it, I decided to go pretty much to the extreme of what, like, the caricature of an influencer, so a really annoying, over the top person, because I know that Miriam is amazing, and she'd just be like, okay, now we reel it back. Can we find that happy medium?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
some of the biggest feedback we had about Miami, and they were just like, she was really, really annoying. I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
and then
Like so many people.
And then so many people will also come up and be like, I know that person. That is somebody. They were like, I had one person say to me, like, I used to live with that person, and I'm so on Daria's side. It made me like,
I would have been there too if I could.
in a way, that was good. It's a good in a way, because with these kind of characters, like, okay, job done. Lovely. Great.
Well, I'm interested. I'm also interested, especially when we put this out to show, like, no, this is what Sarsi's really like.
I swear.
And so, Sinead, how did you find the 2? Because obviously each episode was filmed in a totally different style on purpose, but you were across the 2. How did you find the difference?
It was interesting because they both brought very different challenges. I definitely found the first episode with Sarsi, weirdly enough, a little bit more stressful. You would think that because obviously we were in the same place that would make it easier. But because I was having to do, like, I mean, the hardest one was when we were outside and I was filming, but not trying not to look at the camera. So it was like every take we would do, obviously I had no idea until we got to the end of the take whether or not I was even in shot. So it was like sheer luck most of the time, or trying to use my muscle memory to work out where my arm was and like stupid stuff like that. So it was weird because that brought those kind of challenges, but obviously it's really nice to have someone there that you get to perform across from. So that was lovely. And you know, it also meant that at least when there was a challenge, we could kind of work it out together. And we were like, you know, trying to find out ways to prop up our phone and stuff, because we don't have a tripod or anything.
And the lamps and the lights.
Yeah, so like all that kind of stuff, at least we could do it together, which was nice. Whereas what was interesting with episode 2 was like the actual filming setup itself was so much more straightforward, and like I didn't have to like test stuff as much, like when we were setting up the bedroom in episode 1 and that. Like it was a lot simpler in that sense, but there was more actual tech issues. So like we were having issues with sound and stuff when we were trying to record online, and that's really frustrating because there was literally nothing that any of us could do about it. It was just like, oh, for some reason my connection was being funny that day, and so my sound was dropping out when we were trying to do the Zoom record with the 2 of us on it at the same time. And it was like, oh, it's so annoying when you can't do anything about this. Like at least all the other stuff was stuff that we could change and we could fix. You know, if it's a case of the angle and it's like, okay, we've got to figure out how to change the angle. But if the sound's dropping out because of the internet connection, there's literally nothing you can do about that.
Yeah,
it was really interesting because it was so different, both so different.
It's funny because within the edit we were trying to work with that, and part of the reason I was like, because Matt was panicking about it so much, I was like, one of the main reasons I was like, this is going to work is because this is what Zoom calls are like. Things will pop in and out, we'll use that. But then there was a couple where, in order for us to sort of turn up and hear parts of your dialogue better, we would turn up your volume, but we couldn't then hear like other physical bits you were doing. So there's a couple of scenes in which we recorded the your actions. So getting on the bed, shuffling around, typing, even doing the hair. And Matt had, because we've got a recording here, Matt had a recording system and he was just recording me doing those things. I mean, Matt really in front of me, and I was having to match the timing of your like movement.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh my God, well done. That's something else.
Wow.
So that was that, and did a couple for the only one we missed, and we really wish we'd done it afterwards, and we really regret, is with Kitty's fall off of the sofa. We really liked it, we kept it on sound, but we were going to add, and we just forgot with the time pressure to add like a slightly bigger thump sound to her going on the ground.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a huge bruise after that fall.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm just gonna do this really gracefully, but I did not.
I mean, it looked fantastic. So then we were going to do that, and we were just going to record me flopping off our own sofa because of how long it took. And actually, we only finished editing it just in time for the release of the for the 4th episode, because actually we thought we were done really early, thought it was amazing, but then I don't know what it was with the internet or YouTube, every other video uploaded to YouTube in about 40 minutes. Episode 4 took 4 hours to upload to YouTube. So if we hadn't have finished exactly when we did, we would have missed our premiere.
Wow.
It felt well in the end.
That must have been so stressful.
Obviously, so Jenny and Becky, you filmed yours in a completely different style. So how did yours work?
I thought it was, once we'd got it set up, we were still then. So when everything was set, then all we had to do was just keep doing different takes just to make sure it was all right. Yeah. It was all to get the light right at first, but then we sorted that.
Yeah.
But apart from that I found the hardest thing out of everything I did was getting the voiceover in time for the 2nd episode and trying to get that in. That was harder than, but yeah, once we'd set up, we chatted to Miriam, it was just a case of just doing it and recording it.
Yeah.
So it weren't too bad.
Yeah, it was we had a few technical hitches, didn't we, Miriam? I'm trying to.
Your sound was a problem, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the sound, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember why that was now.
Very sensitive microphone, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. But it was good enough in the end, wasn't it? The last take. Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting one because, and I suppose a great advantage in a way, is though although we knew the script, didn't we? Although
Everyone was perfectly learning.
we could also cheat it massively at times, and that was so helpful in a way. It took the pressure off. So and also I quite like the thing, because you used the phone, you phoned me up, you really phoned me up, as it were, and I don't know,
I think that really helped, you being on the other side, so I weren't just pretending to talk to her, actually having the conversation.
Exactly. You actually, exactly. So that was a clever device, I think.
Did you find it easier having somebody to physically act to, then, even if it was only over the phone, than it was?
Yeah, definitely. I think unless we could have done it, like if you'd had a different format, and you were doing it on to the screen or something, as if you had a split screen, say it was a Zoom call or something, it was a split screen and you were talking to each other, but it was the same really, because you were actually responding in real time to somebody talking down the phone to you. So that was really clever, wasn't it? I thought it was good.
May I ask a question, actually, if that's all right?
Sure.
Something I was quite curious about. What was it like having no audience whatsoever? So no crew, no people watching the performance. You're literally performing on your own pretty much most of the time, solo to a camera. It's such an unusual situation. The closest thing that I can think to it is the social influencer thing, where you're setting up in your home and doing something. But it must feel very strange. I just wondered what you thought about that. energy.
Well, it's obvious. It's clearly a very different experience, say, to stage acting. Completely, obviously different. Not so different from doing, say, TV or film, I suppose. Although obviously there's nobody else around, but I sort of felt that in some ways there was quite a strong link. I mean, there were the three of us, and I felt there was a very strong link between, I felt it anyway, a strong link to you, Miriam. You know, I felt you were very much, you were very, very attentive to the directing process. So I felt very held, if you know what I mean, in that sense. Possibly even more so in a way than if you're in a room, because you were there, you know, you could see you in the screen. So it's quite direct. I think it's quite a connectedness. And, you know, you were clearly paying a lot of attention to stuff. And that was very helpful. And you knew what you wanted. So you know, obviously, it was very helpful to me as an actor to feel that you were very much in charge, you knew what you were doing, and all I had to do was just basically follow what you were saying.
Yeah, I agree on that. It also helped the fact that with what, for my episode anyway, with what you were watching the edits on was like what you're watching the rehearsals on is what all the audience is going to be watching it on. So you're watching it on the final device, you're watching it on the product. I mean, I've been doing a lot of, we've been doing a lot of self-tapes in this time, and that's the closest thing I can really compare mine to, is like just doing multiple self-tapes and just getting it right. Like, because there is no one other than Sinead really to get a response off of. So
I think what was hard was it was the fact that it wasn't an immediate response. So like Kitty was saying earlier, that it was that wait in between the shots, and like I did find myself losing energy a bit at points, you know, where you're going, oh, I think we got it that time, and then you'd start overanalyzing stuff, because by the time it's sent and by the time Miriam was able to watch it, and either we'd get feedback from Miriam because she'd go, actually I want you to change this before we can then send it on, or you know, it would be a case of Miriam would watch it and then it would get sent to Scarlett, and then Scarlett would watch it, and so you know, you'd be sat there for 20 minutes and by the end of it you go, it was definitely terrible. It was absolutely awful. See, we should have even sent her it. We shouldn't have bothered sending her that one. Should we just do another one now? Yeah, let's just take another shot right now, because it was definitely wrong. And then she'd be like, yeah, that was great, guys. You're like, oh, did she not notice this? And then you're like, no, we've just overanalyzed it now. Like, we've been thinking this too long. So I found like that was the issue more than it, because it didn't, I mean, it did feel weird, of course it did, and it was certainly very theatre, but in terms of like the filming, it wasn't the issue of not being able to have feedback. It was just the time that made it difficult, and definitely made you overthink things.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
the overthinking, completely agree. And then because we did one take, and halfway through I went, oh, I've messed that up, let's just do it again. And so I thought, well, nobody saw that, so that's fine. And but yeah, I didn't feel, I was okay doing it on my own, because I just sort of got lost in it a little bit. And then I'd go, oh, I've sent it to Miriam now, oh God, what about this bit? What did I do there? Because normally they'd go, right, no, stop, do that again, wouldn't they? You're there in front of you, so you definitely overthought it. I
suppose the difference.
Oh, sorry, Scarlett.
I suppose the difference between, say, the first episode, in which like Sinead and Sarsi very much had to, because it's a self-tape, they influence film things themselves, and there's no real like cutting from either side. It's just the video, this is my video, I'm posting it, it's gone now. Whereas you didn't have the beauty of when we're doing a long take, several long takes, and we'll just take the best parts from each take, because their videos had to be, it'll have to be this one or this one or this one. We couldn't, by the nature of putting it together and the app it was meant to be used for, and how the app was meant to mimic, it had to just be that takes right, and then done. Like even though weirdly the edit process took the longest on that episode, but that was because of getting it to look like the live videos with the coming comments. I mean, all that, and getting it the right shape and things like that took the time. But actually the cuts were just the exact cuts that you'd given us. It was just what we had to put on top.
one perfect take.
So